Are variable rate mortgages the herpes of mortgage terms? In this video, we're going to talk a little bit about how variable mortgages are making their comeback, much like herpes would also make a comeback. But are they as bad as herpes, or are they getting better now? Let's dig in and find out. But before we get into all of that, do me a favor, as always, hit that like and subscribe button so you never miss another video that I put out. All right, so listen, before we get into why variables are making a comeback and why they're like herpes, let's look at the history and figure out why they were so popular to begin with, and then what happened to them in the last few years, and now why they're making a big comeback. Let's go back in time a little bit. Let's go back to 2020 during the COVID crisis, when our Bank of Canada was telling us rates are going to stay low for a really, really long time. There were some projections saying rates aren't going to start rising until the summer of 2023. Well, that sealed the deal for a lot of people. When variable rate mortgages are at 1.1, 1.2%, it seemed like an easy choice to take. People figured, hey, we've got a good 3 years of this ultra low rate. Let's take advantage of it now. This is what our Bank of Canada has been saying. And then as things started opening up during COVID, we started seeing the inflation numbers tick up, up, up. But what did our leaders at the Bank of Canada say about that? Don't worry. It's transitional. It's gonna fix itself once the supply chains come back online. So people continued to take variable rate mortgages thinking that these rates were going to stay low for a longer period of time based on what the Bank of Canada is telling people. But that's not what ended up happening. Now, in 2022, when the Bank of Canada started their aggressive rate hiking cycle, they found themselves caught. They let inflation get out of hand. It went too high, too fast, too hot. People were partying way too much, and the Bank of Canada needed to take that punch bowl away. And so they did that in the forms of aggressive rate hikes, to the tune of they've increased rates by 4.75% over the last 18 months or so. And they've never done that before. They don't know what the results of this are going to be. But I can tell you that a lot of people who had the variable rate mortgages saw their payments increase dramatically, some to a point where it became unsustainable. And we also saw variable rate mortgage products where their payments were fixed and the payments no longer even covered the interest on the mortgage alone now. So what happened to those people? Their amortizations went into negative territory. So instead of the amortization going down, it started going up, almost like a reverse mortgage. So we saw some customers with amortizations of 60, 70, 80 years. CIBC even called it an infinite mortgage. You'll never pay this off. So the Bank of Canada now was wary of variable rate mortgages. Most customers were weary of variable rate mortgages, and we realized that there is some certain risk involved, especially when the Bank of Canada gets it wrong so badly. And so in 2023, April of 2023, variable rate mortgage originations were down by 87%. So that number is huge. That number was huge. And we still have the Bank of Canada warning and advising against variable rate mortgages. They're concerned that they might be a little bit too risky. And so people listen, even though back in 2020, people listened to the Bank of Canada then too, and it didn't work out. But whenever the Bank of Canada speaks, people listen whether or not the information is accurate or not. Having said that, the last 6 months may not have been the right time to take a variable mortgage because there was a lot of uncertainty, and people, when it comes to their financing, a lot of them want certainty. But now what we're certain of is we're certain that we've pretty much reached the peak of this rate cycle. We won't be seeing any future rate increases. Why is that? Well, our GDP growth is down. Our inflation is coming down. The Federal Reserve in the States has also indicated they're probably at their peak of their rate hike cycle. So we're starting to see bond yields, which are what fixed rates mortgage are based off of, start to drop. And that means it's a prediction of where the prime rate's going to be going. So we're expecting to see rate cuts in the not so distant future, maybe as early as April of 2024. So if rate cuts are on the horizon, does it make sense to take a fixed rate mortgage? If you're in a fixed rate mortgage, guys, and you want to take advantage of a lower rate later on, there's going to be a significant penalty involved. We saw that during COVID. When rates plummeted in 2020 and 2021, what did that do to the penalties? Especially if you had a mortgage with the chartered banks, penalties shot through the roof. We saw penalties of $30,000, $40,000 to get out of your mortgage to take advantage of these lower rates. So why do you want to subject yourself to these huge penalties? So if you're in the market for a mortgage right now, if your mortgage is maturing, if you're looking at buying a property, we are starting to see a lot more people take the variable at this point because they want to take advantage of lower rates later on, and the only way they're going to be able to do that without a penalty is with the variable mortgage. So that's why right now we're seeing a lot more people look at variable rate mortgage options. Now that we're at the top, it makes the most sense to save the most amount of interest over the life of the loan. Now that we know how risky some of these variable mortgages are, we can strategize a little bit better. Can we time the market so people lock into a fixed rate when they're at the bottom of the variable? It's going to be trickier, but you're going to need to work with a professional who understands the market. And so this is why variable rate mortgages are making a big comeback. Hope you guys love that video. Please hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss any future videos. If you have any questions, post them in the comments and I will be sure to answer them as soon as possible.